Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Are you serious? I'll be joined by my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez, in just a couple of minutes. How's everybody on this gorgeous Friday morning here in upstate New York? Anyway, hope it is where you are. Hot, hot, hot. We don't get spring anymore up here. I don't know about you guys. We go right from 45 to 90. And then back to 45 next week. So anyway, we'll enjoy it while it lasts. Well, listen, I want to a couple of things real quick. We're live this morning on, obviously, TGI Sports Talk, Northeast Streaming Sports, simulcasting on Let's Talk Sports. You can always see us, and you are right now probably on either Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And we invite you to like and share the shows that you see and you like. We invite your comments. Also, get in and like and follow TGI Sports Talk. Couple of quick notes. Last night was the airing of the debut airing of my interview with former Patriot, Dolphin, and Eagle great and Redskin. We won't say great there. Irving Fryer and Nebraska Cornhusker, by the way, #1 pick in the '83 draft for the New England Patriots. It was a very interesting hour. Geez. I think we went like an hour and 20 minutes. Irving's a very interesting guy, been through lots of highs and lows in both his professional and personal career, his personal life, and was very open and upfront about that. He's got a great attitude for the things that have happened to him in recent years. So check that out. And we're on, I don't want to say we're on hiatus, but we're out of interviews, new interviews to do for the next couple of weeks possibly. So we'll re-air some of those. You can always go to TGI Sports Talk and catch those. There's been some great interviews so far. Chuck Foreman was on the week before. Had some great reception for that. Today, before I bring in Carlos, we're going to dive into some Major League Baseball. The Rays off to a 13-0 start, tying a Major League Baseball record. We'll look at who's hot, who's not. Some other topics around Major League Baseball. The NFL draft, we'll dive into some of that. Mel Kiper's recent mock draft has 4 quarterbacks going in the first 4 spots. I don't think that'll happen. We'll see what happens there. And we'll talk about a little bit about Daniel Snyder. Finally, it looks like selling the team formerly known as the Redskins to Josh Harris and a group led by Josh Harris, I'm assuming. And also we'll look at the NBA playoffs, talk about some of the matchups that we're most intrigued about, maybe who's a sleeper, who's the favorite, and NHL as well. If we get some time, we'll look at that. Islanders, I'm sorry, what do we got? Not Islanders. Islanders, Rangers, and Devils all in the playoffs, and I believe the Rangers and boy, I can't talk today. The Rangers and Devils will match up in that first round. So we'll get into some of that. Again, our sleepers, obviously the Bruins are the favorites there, but we'll dive into all that. With that, let's say good morning to the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez.
Yo, happy Friday. I know I'm wearing a hoodie, but I'm inside air conditioning. It's like 110 degrees in New York.
Man, I wanted to turn the air on so bad yesterday, man. I haven't taken the damn cover off it yet, for crying out loud.
It's been hot the last few days, Keith, but don't worry. The next few days coming is going to be cold again, I guess.
Well, the problem is we're going right back into the 40s here next week anyway. So, yeah. But I'll tell you what, I was talking to my wife. This is neither here nor there, but then you probably don't have a lot of landscape to worry about, but everything has turned so green and growing so fast. We have a little spot we sit in our front room, the family or the living room. I always mix that up, by the way. We don't do anything in there. The family all sits and watches TV in the family room, but that's the living room to me. That's where I live.
That's your living room.
Anyway, we sit there and have a conversation every morning. Just 2 days ago, it was all brown. This morning, I'm looking out there. It's all green and growing in. I'm going to have to trim it next weekend probably. So anyway, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. Enjoy the weather wherever you are while it's here. And
hey, my son got to go to the beach with his cousins. So
to the beach, the water might be a little chilly.
Yeah, but it's hot, bro.
I know it is hot. We'll be all winter long. I try not to complain about the heat because I hate the winter, but I don't know. We have no spring. We have no fall. We just have summer and winter.
The New York weather is like blah. You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
We used to have some beautiful falls and springs. Not anymore. Anyway.
Speaking of hot,
what's up?
Speaking of hot, somebody's hotter than the Florida weather, and that's Tampa, man. Woo!
Oh man, 13-0. Who saw this coming? I mean, the Rays always surprise us, but I didn't have them going to the playoffs. But and by the way, 13-0 does not guarantee you the playoffs. The Brewers, I know the Brewers in 90, maybe 92. I can't remember. The story's probably here somewhere. They went 13-0 to start, did not make the playoffs. So again, it's not a guarantee of anything. Who else was off to this start?
No, the 82 Braves and the 87 Brewers. So
82 Braves. Yeah, Braves just barely made the playoffs.
Right.
And the Brewers did not make the playoffs the year they started 13-0. But this team, I mean, kind of carried by Wander Franco, Rosarina. Then their pitching. Where do they find this pitching year after year is amazing to me. They got to have the best farm system in baseball.
Well, I think it's easy when you're in Florida because you're around all these AAA teams, AA teams, and you don't have to go anywhere, right? So your whole scouting team's there, your whole administration's there, and they can all like talk to each other and be like, hey, some of these guys will probably do better if they're in a different organization. You got to understand there's a lot of guys that get let go for pennies on the dollar. So it's it is what it is. So
I don't want to take away from our 13-0 start, but I have to point out one thing. During this streak, they played the Tigers, the Nationals, the Athletics, and the Red Sox, who are we're off to a decent start. But these may be the four worst teams in baseball. The A's are going to win 130 games.
No, you make perfect sense. And but the thing that they have been doing is that they've been beating them, right? So
you have to beat these teams.
If you're going to play bad teams, you got to win, and they're doing that. And another thing that they're doing is, even though they're playing these bad teams now, they're still ranked in the top 5 of different types of categories and stats. So that helps them as well, right? So and you play who you play, right? Like you can't control the schedule.
You're going to play them all. They just happen to play these guys the first 13 games of the season, and you have to beat these teams to win divisions. And so
all the other teams will get a crack at these guys who are not going to do well this year. But even though you take a crack at it, you got to win those games, man. Look, the Mets, when they went down and they had the opportunity to sweep a couple of teams, and they didn't. And then Chicago came up here toward the end of last season, won a few games, and took them. Took the Mets out for almost a loss, and not even into the playoffs. So
and it just happened. When these things happen in the middle of the season, 13 wins in a row is always going to be noticed, but they don't get noticed as much as the beginning, obviously. And listen, the Yankees and Blue Jays aren't off to terrible starts. 8-5, not terrible. But you're already 5 games out of first place, not even 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
You got to make sure, because this team could stay hot for a while. They can't go on any extended losing streaks, or you fall way behind early.
Yeah, no, and baseball is one of those games that, especially this year, I know you don't like some of the changes, but all the teams are in the mix for 7 innings at least, minimum, right? Like
I will, listen, and I may have said it here last week. I don't know, but I've said it a few times especially last week, that the one rule change that I'm wavering on, that I'm okay with. The pitch clock is working out. There's some weird crap that happens, right? We saw with McNeil and the base running thing, and every once in a while there's some quirky things that happen, and I worry about what will happen. I said it last week on I think my Major League Baseball update. I worry about the playoffs and some dramatic moments that maybe will never happen because of the pitch clock. Kirk Gibson's home run in '88 always comes to my mind.
Right.
But it's having the right intention. Yankee games have been starting like 6 o'clock. By the time I settle in at 8 o'clock, the freaking game is in the 7th inning already. That's not a bad thing. I got to change my own personal viewing habits of games.
But yesterday they were out of that game in the first inning.
Yeah. By the time I turned it on, I think it was the 3rd inning. It was 11-0, and I'm like, well, what happened here? So
they made history too yesterday. 9-0, first team since the 2000 White Sox to give out 9 runs. in the beginning of the game.
First inning, they gave up 9 runs.
First inning.
Who
Hey,
started
hey,
that game yesterday?
last season, I saw a game like that too. Remember, I walked to the game to watch the Chicago Cubs play the Mets, and the Cubs were already winning 7-0.
Yeah. Listen, the Yankees got some offense, but you fall behind 9-0, you're not going to have much of a chance to come back. That's for sure. There's some other teams that are playing well besides the Rays. The Twins are playing well. The Braves are playing well. The Brewers are playing well. The Diamondbacks, who I had as a sleeper, I didn't have them making the playoffs, but I said they'll make a leap this year, probably over 500, and make the playoffs and be a challenger next year. But they're off to an 8-5 start. That's not bad for them.
Yeah, listen, baseball is pretty exciting this season. If you got a team and you're following them and you're watching games, and don't be afraid to watch another game if the team you're watching is giving you a snoozer of a game. Look, keep your hats on, folks. Even the Pirates, they're looking like a nice young team over there, and they're doing things on a small budget, right? So, every game's different, and if you're in the third or fourth inning and your team's losing and you want to see something different, go watch another game. Don't be scared to watch another game. You're gonna find some exciting baseball all over, I think, and that's been the tough thing.
Since you mentioned it, are you willing to say now the Pirates are a surprise team this year? Because I'm not. I think
no. But I will say this:
95 games.
I will say this, and what I've also said about the A's and even the Orioles is that they have good young players in their nucleus, and those players are fun to watch. They make the game a little bit interesting, and just because they're on a bad team doesn't mean that you're going to see bad baseball.
Now, it's interesting you talk about young guys, because the guys carrying the Pirates are, Brian Reynolds is a young guy. Andrew McCutchen, Rich Hill's in their rotation. These guys are like just behind me on the depth chart for age. So, they're not, and they're hurt now because O'Neal Cruz, I think, is out for extended period of time. I think he went on a 60-day IL, so he's probably going to be out for quite some time. I don't see this team standing up. The A's you mentioned, they're 3-10. They're on a pace to lose 130 baseball games. They're going to lose 120. They're going to have a record-setting bad season.
It's 2 weeks into the season, and it's just hard to tell and say that they're going to lose all those games because the Tampa Bay Rays are winning all these games, and you just said earlier that you don't know if they're going to make the playoffs even if they win because they're winning now, right? So we can't say that these teams that are losing that bad are going to lose all those games. Baseball's a long season, man.
I will tell you this: I don't think you can win pennants in April and May, but you can lose pennants in April and May.
Oh, definitely.
Right? I mean, teams like the Mariners, who are off to a bad start, 5-8, not awful, but they're not looking good even in losing. So that's a bad sign. You can lose a pennant. And Alan just piped up about Brito starting yesterday. He thinks for the Yankees. I think he may be right.
Yeah, it was Brito.
And his team, who I've been mocking pretty much the entire winter, is in first place. I don't think that's necessarily an omen of what's to come, but it's a good point to say the Mariners at 5-8 were expected to be the team to challenge the Astros, and the Astros are having their own struggles. Mm-hmm. This division's a bit upside down, other than the A's. Maybe the Rangers are better than I thought, but again, this is where I'm more likely to put more stock on really bad performances early in the season than good ones. I guess that's my point. Whether it's individual players or teams.
Yeah. So what we're seeing with no shift is more hits. We're seeing
we needed more hits
with the pitch clock. We're seeing more steals against pitching against bad fielders and who are pitchers, pitchers who don't field very well or throw the ball to first very well. So
hold on, back up. That steals you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, how is a pitcher? The pitcher's got one hand tied behind his back. He can throw to first base once, and then he's screwed because he can't throw a second time, or the guy's got a free stolen base.
But even with that, you got to be able to throw the ball. You got to be able to throw to first base consistently and good.
My point is, you can't throw the ball to first base consistently because you can only throw. You can't, even if you step off the rubber, that's a move to first base. You cannot. You can only do it twice.
Yeah, I know. And what I'm saying is, when you throw the ball, and it goes towards first base, put it where the first base can catch it.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but listen, again, this is another rule that's put into favor offenses and hurt pitchers.
And I will say this: there's a lot of pitchers that actually can probably do that consistently. They're just too. It's something that they worry about if they can do it, and I think that gets in front of that in their mind is a mind game that they play with themselves when they're on the mound. So.
I'm telling you right now, I don't like the rules. I'm coming around the pitch clock a little bit because I like the pace of the games. And, I think later on in the season, it's funny, the young guys, I think, are ahead of the older guys because they've been playing with it in minor leagues.
Right.
But I think everybody will get used to the pace, and you won't even notice the clock maybe, by midseason. The rest of the stuff, the shift, I still don't like. It's an artificial means of fixing a problem that is coaching and player related. And this whole thing with I think the thing will have the most impact. Now that will have a lot of impact, the shift or lack thereof. But I think this rule where you can only throw to first base twice is going to make a huge difference in this season and have more of an impact than anything else because you're really hamstringing pitchers, which is what we've been doing for 60 years. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I mean, hey, Buck said like the other day, they've made a few steals in the game to stay in with the Padres when the Mets are playing the Padres.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, because they didn't play yesterday. That if they didn't have those steals, it would have affected the game. Now, the first game the Mets played with the Padres, they didn't have any runs scored in, and that affected the game. Remember, in the first inning, they had a bases loaded, and they didn't score any runs.
Right.
And then the game after that, they made more steals, and then they scored when they needed to score. Had more runners batted in. So those little things that add up in a game make a difference because the game's less than 3 hours now. So.
Yeah, all the games are. I mean, they're averaging, 2 hours and maybe less than 2:30, which is really good. I'm happy about that. Believe me, I love baseball, but I don't need to watch 4-hour games, right? So. One thing I want to touch on, too, before we go any further, we're talking about rule changes. And one that went in last year is having what I said last year would have this unintended consequence. So, again, and I know you are a big opponent of things like spider tack and whatever, but Garrett Cole said when they put this rule in, they may be thinking that this helps me. What they don't understand is it also helps me not hit the guys in the face with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. We've already seen 2 or 3 guys. Kyle Farmer yesterday had a very scary incident when he got hit in the face. Justin Turner got hit in the face in spring training with a nasty pitch. This is part of the problem. If you don't give pitchers some kind of help with having a good grip on the baseball, these things are going to continue to happen, and it's scary, and it's an unintended consequence of them thinking they're hurting the pitchers.
Right. So here's the thing, Keith. With that, it doesn't matter what it is that they give the pitchers to help with their grip, or it is going to matter what they can use. Because with the spider tack, remember the ball looked like it was going faster than it actually was. Right, and that was the biggest issue because
more movement on a baseball in my mind.
Right. I mean, so that was a big issue for a hitter. It's like, you're looking at a ball, it looks like it's going 110, 120, and it's only actually going like, the spin rate on it was just ridiculous. So, is that okay for you? You think that's okay? If you're a big, you're the judge and you get to choose. Go ahead and let them use spider tack, or you can do whatever you want.
Yes, again, I'll tell you why. Because every other rule change that you make is to help the hitters and the offense. Pitchers have been put in the back seat since 1968. They lowered the mound. They made the ballpark smaller. They put juice in the baseball. Baseball bats are harder, and they exit velocity, which I hate. Guys are hitting the ball harder than ever. All of these advantages go to the hitters. Not one has gone to the pitchers. They find something to try to level the playing field and, by the way, protect players, because a lot of these guys coming up out of minors, they throw 100 miles an hour and they don't know where the hell the ball's going. It's going to be worse if you have nothing to get a good grip on the baseball with. So, yes, I have no problem with spider tack at all, or something similar, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you're complaining about teaching the managers have to coach and the coaches have to help these guys hit the ball better. That's why the shift is, why the shift came into play. And now you're telling them the hitters got to find out and figure out how to practice to hit balls that have a spin ratio, of 120 minimum, right? But the speed of the ball is only going about 75, 80.
I don't think that's accurate. Nobody throws a 75-mile-an-hour fastball. So anyway, I think you're over-exaggerating that part of it. Is the spin rate better? Yes, but I don't think it changes what it looks like the fastball is. It's more about the movement on the pitch.
It's a combination depending on who's pitching, right? It all depends on who's throwing the ball at the end of the day. So
yeah, and I will not argue the fact that they need to be taught how to pitch with control better in the minor league, just like hitters.
I'm talking about hitting the ball. I'm talking about seeing it and hitting. Right? You can only hit. The thing is, hit what you see, right? But if you're standing there and looking at a ball, you don't know what it's doing because
I just gave you 6 off the top of my head rule changes in the last 50 years that have done nothing but help hitters. And I didn't even include the ones for this year.
But doing that, you would change everything about hitting.
No, you've changed everything about the game when you put rules in about how many times you can throw to first base, about where you can position your players. That was never a rule. You're not you, but again, the things you're agreeing to and think are good. That's what's changing the game.
First of all,
the players are getting worse because we put rules in to help them and not teach them. That's my point.
Just because I'm arguing about it doesn't mean I'm agreeing with it. It is what it is. I can argue all day. I don't get to make the decisions, Steve. You know what I'm saying? Like, there might be some things I like about rule changes, but there might be some things I don't like about rule changes.
Yeah, well, if you don't speak up about them, they'll just keep making more and more stupid.
No, because we might have a voice as fans, but the people that are making the bigger decisions are the players and the association.
The players may know. The vote. They do have to approve rule changes. Right. I get it, but the people running the Major League Baseball Players Association are no better or smarter than freaking Rob Manfred. They know nothing about the game and the history of the game. None of them.
You've interviewed reporters. You've interviewed players. From the back. You've interviewed a lot of people that say that the people who run baseball ruining baseball. Listen, Keith. Again, we as the fans, we have a voice, but it's not the voice that these players or that the actual MLB is listening to. So
Alec Simpson speaks up and says they want more home runs for the fans. I agree with that, but that's for the casual fan, Alec. You know what? Guys who are hardcore fans like me, and I know I'm old, and I've said forever I'm the cranky guy yelling for the kids to get off his lawn, but I want my game back. I don't want a video game. I don't want to watch video game baseball. I want to watch good baseball. I don't want 3 true outcomes. I don't want home runs, walks, or strikeouts. That's what baseball has become.
So, from the changes that have happened in the last 2 weeks of baseball being played, do you enjoy the game better today than you did last season?
Base of play, that's it. I mean, I still see guys strike out way too much with runners in scoring position. I don't see guys moving runners along. Do I see more base hits because of the shift? Yes, but that's not because the players are better or the game's better. It's because you put an artificial rule in to help improve players' performance instead of getting them to improve their own performance.
One of your best players is coming.
Don't encourage people to get better. Let's change all of the change everything around them, the environment around them, so they will be better, not improve them. It's the same thing in a lot of society. We change the way we approach things rather than approach and how they can be better themselves.
The people making the rules are the ones that have the biggest effect on the game. So
and know the least about the game, by the way. I would argue.
Well, one of your favorite players is coming back in the next few weeks, and he's got about 476 in AAA.
Who are we talking about?
Fernando Tatis. He's going to be joining the Padres.
Speaking of teams not off to a great start, they're 7-7. They've struggled with their pitching staff, and
the pitching staff. Machado has just hit his first home run yesterday.
Yeah, well, he'll be fine, but it's going to be interesting when Tatis joins his team because again, I've said that probably the only thing that can stop this team is themselves, and team chemistry implodes. Which it could. You got a lot of egos on that team, boy.
You're going to have more egos on that team than scores.
It's possible. I mean, I hope Bob Melvin's ready for this because it's going to be a tough. I mean, Tatis's already been a problem. It was just him and Machado. There were some issues from time to time. And I give Machado credit. I think he's matured a lot in his career. And, maybe he is the guy that can step in and keep these guys on a level
Well,
playing.
that 11-year contract is it's a pretty nice little nugget for him to get.
Did he extend?
Yeah, he did.
Wow, I missed that. All right. Well, that's good because he said I'm out of here. So, what else surprises you before we move on to
the Rangers are surprising.
a little bit? I will say that. Great, Alan. Congratulations, your team's in first place.
But I wouldn't bet the house on them.
Don't just look at the calendar is the only thing I'm going to tell you, Alan.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm surprised that the Yankees hadn't made more moves to solidify the needs that they have, knowing that they have the money to do it. But
what I get here. And that was regards to our lifestyle choice. I fired CA. Anytime I open the door for CA anytime I go outside of sports and bring in the rest of society. So I got to give him the benefit of the doubt here since I opened that door. That was with regards to our lifestyle choices outside of sports. However, less time for those inside. Overwhelming preparation and cognitive skills will separate whether in-game staffs are. You're already, the problem is, CA, you're way too smart for any of these players. They're never going to pay attention to any of that crap.
Yeah,
I do. I get it. Believe me. So.
Yeah, the analytics don't get it.
No, Jesus. That's not. Oh, God. I'm still an eye test guy. I could care less about numbers. I want to see what a guy does. I can tell whether the guy's a good player or bad player just by watching him.
Yeah, and then situational doesn't. And even if you rate them by situation, the analytics is still off.
They're way off because not every situation is. Well, I shouldn't say not every situation is the same. It'll come up from multiple times, but there's too many variables. Count, and you cannot put it all in a neat box. And you can a little bit more in baseball than football. Fourth downs, they don't even break things down. You watch a game and every fourth down's the same. It doesn't matter whether it's for 1 yard or 20. That's how they break down your success rate. So. Anyway, I think it's been a very interesting season. Rangers doing well, as you said. I think the Braves, not surprisingly, off to a good start. Mets got to be careful; they don't fall way behind early. I got some concerns, but
yeah, again, you got to go out there and you got to play the game. So, and look, if the analytics were so great, you're one of your favorite players. I don't think would be on the field much, and he isn't right now. Mr. Aaron Hicks.
Yeah, not one of my favorite players, obviously. You got Boone thrown out of the game the other day. Look, not his fault, but I think Aaron should have let that one go, actually. I mean, it was obvious that the guy, his whole thing, did you see that play when he got thrown out the other day?
Yes.
I couldn't figure out why he was arguing, but his whole point was that it wouldn't have been reviewed if they hadn't slowed the game down to look at something else, and then that gave the time. That gave the time for, I don't remember who they were playing at the time. Anyway, the opposing manager to challenge that play didn't turn out to have any impact on the game. But
now Buck did that the other day, and they almost came out positive on because they had the what's his name, Hader.
Yeah.
He was pitching and he didn't keep warming up, and they were challenging the call, and Hader was just standing there, and it was like, and the Mets were able to kind of get back into the game, but then they went back and they come through at this when they were pitching against the Padres. They let them give up a hit.
Buck's the kind of guy who, he may strategically challenge something just to slow the game down, make the pitcher stand around for 5 or 10 minutes, and take him a little bit out of his rhythm. So that's the kind of, and that's a smart thing to do as a manager.
Almost helped, but they still lost the game.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good choice. Let's move on to the NFL. We're quickly approaching draft day, which I think was 2 weeks from yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I saw. Listen, let me look at this real quick. We'll dive into. Got the wrong thing here. Let me get my band.
Some of these mock drafts are just ridiculous.
Well, I just looked, and this is the one I want to bring up. I noticed this one actually Wednesday when I was doing my college sports huddle. he has got now Mel Kiper, who's been doing this for 100 years. He's got Bryce Young going number 1 with the pick that they traded for from Chicago. He's got Houston then taking C.J. Stroud. This is all in order. But now he's got the Titans jumping up to number 3 and taking Anthony Richardson, which I still don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand the infatuation. I understand he's very athletic, but he's not anywhere near a polished quarterback. And since we already had talked about the fact that at 4, the Colts were going to take Anthony Anderson, he's an actor. Anderson, is it Anderson? Richardson, Jesus. They're going to take Will Levis in his mock draft, who had been falling down the draft boards into the later first round.
If you're smart and you're trying to just get a quarterback as a backup and not your future quarterback, you let Will Levis fall to the second round. Don't pick. I wouldn't pick him in the first round.
I will say this again: Will Levis is falling. He didn't have a great pro day. But the team that ends up with Will Levis, whether it's later in the first round because he fell or in the second round, you're going to have come away with a big, big steal. He's going to be a great quarterback in this league.
I think he'd be an okay quarterback. I don't think he'd be great.
I think he'll be great. Anyway, we can agree to disagree. So anyway, I think that's interesting. I don't think anybody else has got this type of order of these 4 guys going 1, 2, 3, 4.
I will say this: both Richardson and Levis will end up on the same amount of teams and play probably about the same amount of football. And I give them about 4 seasons at backups, and that's about it.
Well, I think that's a little harsh for Levis, but I will agree with you with Richardson. I think, listen, I get it that he's a wild card and we don't know.
Right.
And he could become Lamar Jackson. I don't know.
Here's a problem, Keith. Is
you can't use the 3rd pick in the draft on a project.
No. The problem is that, and I mentioned this on Robert's show, and I don't hate and I don't dislike Shanahan. I dislike the system because everybody's using it, but only certain attributes are used for quarterbacks who are in that system, right? Some of them are semi-successful, but then on the other end, they're either injury prone or they can't stay on the field. I'll give you a good example is Garoppolo. Garoppolo is not the best athlete but he has a decent arm and he's a small quarterback, but he doesn't fit the Shanahan system. But Shanahan has been doing what he can with what Garoppolo can do. And so, which is why he threw him under the bus and was like, I don't mind having a young, fast quarterback because that's what the system requires. Somebody that's fast, semi, with an arm, they have to be too good, but just be quick enough to make those throws and quick throws, right? So, and Garoppolo's not that guy. So, then you have all these coaches and they're using the same. Most of the NFL is using the system somehow or another. Look at Joe Burrow; they're using it. Zach Taylor's using it for Joe Burrow down in Cincinnati. He got to the Super Bowl. Did they win a Super Bowl? No. And you would think, well, you got like 3 wide receivers and a decent running back. You should have been able to run that system and win that game, but they didn't. So. There's
lots of teams with that combination of great players that don't win the Super Bowl.
They run the same offense, and that's a problem. The offense is a problem because there's a lot of quarterbacks that don't fit that system. So if you're willing to gamble and pick a quarterback and try to put him in that system and make him look good for like 7-8 games, fine, do it. But you're not going to win a Super Bowl.
That system's not that different than what the Patriots ran for 20 years.
Yeah, but the biggest difference is that they're using triple tight ends. And it's allowing for these quarterbacks to get hit on the back end.
Which the Patriots often did, by the way. Often played 2-3 tight ends in their sets and played these quick little outs, quick little slants across the middle. And Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way, played very well in that system, and he's going back to that system with the Raiders. And I'm not the hugest Jimmy G fan, don't get me wrong, but I think the best thing could have happened to him is what happened with him ending up with the Raiders and Josh McDaniel.
Yeah, I think the best thing that happened to him was to get away from
the combination.
Yeah.
But as going to a new team, I think the Raiders are probably the best spot for him
because he understands the system. They're younger, and he's going to fall in and give them a little bit of veteran, leadership.
there's some talent on that offense too. I mean, they could be a surprise team this year if the defense gets turned around a little bit, and they need to, or Josh McDaniel will be 2 and done.
It's crazy. But hey, listen, the Commanders will have a new owner, same coaching staff.
Same coaching staff. Which I like Ron Rivera. I know you're not.
No, that's a good coaching staff. If I'm a new ownership, I don't do too much tinkering.
So the talk is, let me see, what was the, do we know the selling price on this? Because
billions, in the billions.
Yeah, where is it? FL.
8 billion?
Come, I don't have it here. Oh, here we go. Harrison Commanders, sorry, team formerly known as the Redskins.
Oh, yeah, $6 billion.
$6.05 billion. That's a record, but that's not the Cowboys would sell for twice that. So it's probably a deal for an NFL team today.
And Magic Johnson's part of that ownership too. So
I don't know much. Is he?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, according to the ESPN, Stephen Apostolopoulos, Canadian billionaire, still involved in these negotiations too. I'm not sure how, but this is interesting. I don't know that much about Josh Harris, so I'll have to dive into this. But I mean, it doesn't matter who owns this team after Daniel Snyder. It can't be worse than the toxic environment that he created there.
Let's just say kudos to Washington for getting a new ownership, because that was something, between the Texans, the Dolphins, and Washington, it's been a mess, and they've been able to keep those issues away from the actual game, which is not bad for this league, to make them a lot of money. So
here's the other guys involved in this. Harris grew up in Bethesda, Maryland. He co-founded the asset management firm Apollo Management in 1990. He has a net worth of $5.8 billion. He's also with a guy named Harris Bitzer. David Blitzer, is part of this. Michael Rales, who I don't know, he's a DC billionaire. Hall of Fame basketball player Magic Johnson are part of this group as well. So interesting. Magic's really getting around in the sports world circles with his involvement with the Dodgers and
ownership in Dodgers. Yeah, ownership now on Washington, and then the second thing is he's in the leadership still for the Lakers as a consultant.
Alec, going back to Jimmy G, says he wanted to win with Jimmy to prove that he can win with any quarterback. Well, he had to win with any quarter. He needs to win. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is as a head coach. I understand what you're saying, Alec, but
I mean, he threw Garoppolo under the bus twice, after the Super Bowl and before the season last year. So if I'm Garoppolo, I was like, oh, whatever, dude, I'm getting paid no matter what. And he did that. So, and people were upset at Garoppolo for having that attitude, but it's like, your coach doesn't want you there. Why would you be a better person? It's like,
I'm not sure how they, again, it's a little different situation, but similar in a way to Aaron Rodgers, right? They made it clear during the whole offseason last year, they didn't want him back. And then they had to have him back. And that's a very awkward situation when he's your starting quarterback now. So,
yeah. And then at the end of the day, stop giving people money. If you don't think that you want them on the team, or you don't like what they're doing, stop giving them money. Like, Well,
he said Kyle wanted to win with. I get it. I misread this. I thought he was talking about. He's talking about Kyle Shanahan. I was thinking he was talking about Josh McDaniel. Kyle wanted to show that he could prove. Doesn't sound like Alec is much more of a Shanahan. And speak up, would you, Alec? Let me know if you're a Kyle Shanahan fan. This tells me maybe you aren't. That he wants to prove he's smart and can win with anybody, including Sam Darnold, apparently. So we'll find out. I'm curious whether you think I like Shanahan. I don't have a problem with the Shanahan tree that the Mad New Yorker here has. I think
it's not the tree. It's the fact that they're using this system that everybody can fit.
Ever came across a Shanahan, whether it was Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan, you run down every coach that ever had anything to do with them.
Well, they're not, because they're not winning the Super Bowls. Did the LaFleur brothers do anything positive? They got rid of Aaron Rodgers because he can't run that system in the Packers.
Run that system. He can run that system, and went to an FC Championship game under that system.
And he win no Super Bowl. The Jets got rid of him as his brother as a coordinator because he was terrible, and that system didn't work for a so-called second pick from the NFL draft. So man, like, look, as many good things that you think are in the system, there's 100,000 bad things that are wrong.
The Jets would kill to be in NFC Championship games every other year, like the 49ers are, and like the Packers have been with the other LaFleur. These teams are making it a long ways. They aren't winning Super Bowls, I'll give you that. But if that's going to be your benchmark, then there are 31 coaches in the league every year that suck and systems that suck. That's not accurate.
That's not accurate, but there's a lot of systems that suck, and someone like Richardson will not fit in 90% of those.
So Alec loves Kyle. He just has a my way or no way attitude, which, you know what, you need as quarterback. I mean, or quarterback. I'm all over the place today. Coach, Bill Belichick, that's no different than Belichick's approach. Carlos doesn't believe in them, Keith. Doesn't believe in, what was I talking about that you don't believe in?
The Shanahan system.
Oh, the Shanahans in general. We know that. Or anybody who ever talked to a Shanahan, by the way.
I didn't say that. I don't think they're bad people, and I don't dislike them at all. I'm just saying that system.
I'm not saying that. It's their football
system. You know
system.
what it is? I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. The Shanahan system is like the public school system. People think, oh, it's just like put your kids in there. They'll do good if they're good, if they're smart, and if they don't, whatever. Because they're not smart, they're not going to succeed. And you can't cookie cut people, man. And what happens is that they make some of these players who are actually good athletes and good in certain skill levels look terrible.
Well, I'll tell you what, we had a cookie cutter system in Patriotsville for like 20 years that worked out pretty well. Now they changed what the cut looked like, but they were bringing players to fit whatever they were going to run. And that's what Shanahan does.
Yeah, but the difference was that
they had the best quarterback of all time running the show, so that helped.
Those players that they did, what they did in the Patriots ways, is something totally different. You talk about the Patriots, what they did, and then the Yankees in the 2000s. Like these are systems that are different because they work. And he started with the young players, and the young players fed it to the people who came in to make sure that the system stayed, right? But you can't just think that that's going to happen all the time. You want it to happen and you're hoping to happen, but that's not reality.
By your theory, their system sucks because it's won no Super Bowls. That means everybody who hasn't won a Super Bowl, their system sucks.
There's been problems with it, or they had problems on the teams where the teams couldn't stay healthy. Most of the time, is health anyway. So,
health's a huge thing for any.
Like look at what's this guy who coached the Chargers. Schottenheim, what is his name?
Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah, he couldn't get them past the hump.
He couldn't get any team past the hump, though.
There you go.
Does it mean he's not a? Does it mean he's a bad?
He's not a bad coach. Those teams just couldn't get past the hump.
I think Marty Schottenheimer gets one of the biggest rips of all time. It's interesting in my interview that I did with Irving Fryer that aired last night. He got out of Washington after being there 2 years, and he was at the end of his career anyway. But he wouldn't play for Marty Schottenheimer. That's why he left. Marty Schottenheimer won everywhere except Washington, and he was 8-8 there when everybody was losing. So I think Marty Schottenheimer gets a really bad rap, by the way, as a football coach. He ran into some really good teams he got beat by in the playoffs. He got beat by one of the greatest drives of all time to keep him from going to a Super Bowl. He got beat by a fumble the next year to keep from going to a Super Bowl. I think he's one of the unluckiest head coaches of all time.
Very unlucky, to be honest with you.
The most underrated, and he doesn't get his due. He gets ripped a lot. Let's see what we got here. Andy Reid for so long. Yeah, you would have called Andy Reid a loser, too, for a long time.
Didn't everybody in Philadelphia call him a loser? He couldn't win. All the players he had, he couldn't win.
How many games did he get to with the Eagles?
Oh, my goodness. How many Eagle fans were ready for him to go?
You know, the Jets would kill to be in. How many championships games have they been in the last 50 years? 2?
Maybe.
Maybe.
The halfway in.
2. I mean, again, getting there does not mean your system doesn't work if you get that far.
Okay, yeah, no, you're exactly right, but that's not what you pay for. That's not what owners pay for. That's not what the teams want. That's not what the tickets cost for, man. You got to understand. You are okay because you're a Patriots fan. You're not a Jets and Giants fan. You think if Eli Manning wasn't here and won those 2 championships, that the Giants fans would be okay with what they were okay with Eli losing for 8 years.
Listen, do you think I've been a Patriot
fan?
Because
you've got one Super Bowl.
I've been a Patriot fan. I've been a Patriot fan.
You got to get to you got to get to the big game and win it. And then,
I watched lots of losing football in my career as a Patriot fan, by the way.
I know.
I'm not 20 years old where I only know winning. These teams were awful. So the coaching staff, and by the way, I will say this about Andy Reid: his system got a lot better when he had Patrick Mahomes running it, didn't he?
His system got a whole lot better when he got a different owner and he was able to control what
And
was
a
going
different
on.
quarterback. And a different quarterback.
And he
Because
had like 3
quarterback
quarterbacks
that held
he
him
did
back.
okay with, even without Mahomes. So
Jimmy would have won a Super Bowl if it wasn't for the future Hall of Fame quarterback. I guess we're talking about
Tom Brady,
number 12. It's San Francisco. Some believe if they're making a capital of the Federation Star Trek. Listen, CA, I love you, buddy. You got a Star Trek reference in on my show. That's awesome. I'm a big Trekker, by the way. So, anyway, what do I want to get at here? Draft. What do you see happening at the top of the draft? First 4 picks.
O-line, defensive lineman, and linebacker, and then maybe a quarterback.
You're talking about for who?
For the first 4 picks.
You're one quarterback in the first 4 picks.
Yeah, I think they're rated too high, and I don't think the value's there for them.
Oh, Bryce Young and Stroud are going in the first 4 picks.
You think so?
Yes, they're going in the first 4, without a doubt. I think the most amazing thing in Kuiper's little mock draft is one of the teams that you have an affinity for, the Titans, trading up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. That's something they could do. And if they do, I think that's a mistake. I think they should sell even the Giants. I think they should sell the pick and get more depth. I mean, you can't. It doesn't hurt you to have depth. And again, a lot of these guys that you're picking 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, most of them don't make your team anyway. So, but just because you pick first rounders don't mean you're going to get the best quality players.
Yeah, depth is a luxury a lot of teams don't have anymore because of the salary cap and what you got to pay the top guys. So
yeah, but once you pay the first round pick, and let's say he's not what you expected, you're in a hole, right? So, but then if you pick other guys and you can keep them around your practice squad, or keep them around, you'll be all right. Again, the Giants drafted Evan Neal, and he was one of the worst rated O linemen this year. He was in the bottom 30s. So. He can only go up from where he's at now, but there's no value right there for the Giants there for that pick that they have made there.
Fair enough. Let's jump to the NBA and a little bit of NHL. NBA's playoff season's underway, if you will. I mean, we still got the play-in tournament, but
I saw that OKC and Pelican game. I felt like I was watching a mirror image of the teams there. They played similar.
Yeah.
Well, did you catch the game?
Not much. No, I didn't really know.
Yeah, I saw the game. In fact, it was a good game because they both kept it close.
Pelicans didn't play the other night.
Yeah, the Pelicans played OKC and OKC won.
No, they played Minnesota.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. It's funny. They got Thunder beat the Thunder here. My bad. What I'm looking at here, the Thunder beat the Thunder. It's interesting. Pelicans, the Pelicans are a bit of a dysfunctional mess with Zion Williamson.
Yeah, well, even the young players that they have there are very impressive. Ingram was one of the guys I saw just jumped out.
Lakers gave up on him. He's played pretty well.
Yeah, he needs a couple players around him for sure. He's not one of those that can take over the game by himself as much as he tries. But OKC's got a lot of young guys there, and Giddey. What a good player. People were giving him more credit, but I think there was a couple other players on OKC that actually deserve a little bit more credit because Giddey was a spark, but they have a lot of players on that bench and on the starting rotation that can help them.
So they've got to win one more game against Minnesota.
Yeah,
we don't know what Rudy Gobert's.
Who's he going to hit?
He's on Toronto, right? Rudy Gobert. Who's Rudy Gobert with? Toronto.
Gobert is with
the guy pitched his player. Yeah, he's kind of suspended. I think he's out. I think he was playing with the Raptors, who got beat by the Bulls. So Oklahoma City will play Minnesota for the right to play the Lakers.
Yeah, and the Bulls played last night, right?
The Bulls will play the Heat tonight. These games are both tonight for the right to play the Hawks.
Yeah, Levine the other day scored about 39 points. Levine's one of those guys, though. They try to pay him to do what he did this last game, and I just hope he can stay consistent. So the next game he has, I hope he could do what he did. And with DeRozan, like they feed off each other pretty well, but They just need to keep it together. Like it's not easy. It's basketball, man, and it's a playoff, so people are going to be hitting you harder than you expected when you get fouled.
So once we get past this, we get into the real playoff.
So the playoffs, yeah.
What do you find the most interesting matchup going in here to the first round? Assuming the Lakers and I don't know, you can assume whatever you want gets in because I don't think it's going to matter. Do any of these play-in teams have a chance to win their first round game?
Possible because with Arizona and Golden State, those two teams they lack familiarity with each other because they have added players or they've been missing players and they're coming back from injury or for not playing. Golden State, they had the player not play for a few almost 30 games, and then Phoenix Suns they made those trades to get those guys in the older guys. So we'll see what they can do as far as will they be able to meet the match. You don't have to play better than the team. You just got to make sure that you're the last man standing in the playoffs.
Yeah, out west, I find that Sacramento Kings and Golden State series to be kind of intriguing in the first round. Sacramento's had a good year, finished with the third seed, better than people expected them to do this year.
They're my black horse. Yeah.
They got Kevin, local product from Kevin Herter from he went to Maryland. His father played here at Siena. He went to Maryland. Great shooter. But they've got a lot of other guys that aren't household names,
right?
Doing the job out there.
No, they the coaching staff has been doing good with Sacramento. They got a 6-man that's doing very well over there. The problem with Golden State is they're not getting any younger, right? And the biggest key factor there is the whole Wiggins situation that's happened.
He should be healthy, I think, for a while.
Yeah, he's been out for personal problems, and they're not gonna. They've already said that they're not gonna play him more than 20-25 minutes a game until he gets back into the groove of things. So, I think
that's where he's most effective anyway. When they can use him for 25 minutes a game, I think that's when he's most effective.
So that's the thing, though. Like, these older guys on the team, can they play 20-25 minutes minimum, like max minimum, so that the younger guys can kind of start to carry the load. Because you don't want Draymond out there, sucking wind and getting dunked on breakaways. Because Sacramento calls a breakaway and they score fast and quickly. So those kind of things are factors that I think the coaches already know. And then Golden State's going to get ready for as being a championship team type caliber. So
in the East, obviously, before I get to the team you love to or the coach you love to hate, let me talk about 76ers and the Nets. I think Jacque Vaughn has done a great job to avoid the play-in tournament. First of all, I thought they might even fall out of that. When they traded everybody away, and I thought he was left with a bad playing hand, but he's done a great job. He's a good basketball coach. Coming up against the Sixers, you see any chance for an upset here? Brooklyn, if they got any chance to knock off this team? They don't have an answer for Joel Embiid.
No. You let Joel Embiid be Joel Embiid. Let him score 28, 30 points, 40 points. Let him score whatever he wants. Yeah. That's not going to be enough points to win them the game. So the thing with Embiid is he can take over the game, but then the rest of the team doesn't do any better. So he doesn't make the team better. He just makes himself and the score look nice and big like he is. So the Nets have a better team defensively. And the problem is that the scoring wise, they depend too much on the three. But if they can attack the basket and just try to get those simple points, they'll be better. They can upset Philadelphia because Philadelphia right now they don't have they're not playing with consistency and they're not playing team ball. They're just playing Embiid ball. So it's good for the Nets. So.
And I'll tell you that I believe the Knicks will win their first playoff series in what feels like 20 years. I think they match up pretty well here with Cleveland. It's going to depend on Randall, who's probably out at least game one, it looks like anyway. He could make a surprise Willis Reed type entrance, who knows? But I think they're good enough to be. They beat this team without him here last week of the season. I like the Knicks to at least advance one playoff round. What do you think?
I think they match up too well with Cleveland. I think that that even if they're missing the big guy, it's not going to matter. That team plays better off the bench. Randall not being in the roster active roster doesn't affect the Knicks' play. What affects them is
Well, it does affect their play.
how many minutes is Brunson and how quickly playing. And if they're playing too much, that's what's going to affect them because players like Barrett need to step up, and he can. In these kind of games, he could step up. He's had that issue, the consistency issue, which is making him not be an all-star level player this year. And so players like Brunson and Quigley, if Tibbs is smart, he'll depend more on Miles and on other players to balance out the minutes. Don't run these guys to the bone. This is the playoffs. You need them to be accessible. You need them to be able to play. And if you run them to the bone, they're trying to win that one game, you're not going to be able to win more. And that's the problem with Tibbs. That's his issue.
Well, and again, a lot of teams shorten their bench here in the playoffs, but his is going to be much. He's going to need his bench because he doesn't have Randall.
Yeah,
the key players for the Knicks are going to be Barrett. Barrett needs to step up and this is where he can really show what kind of player he is. And Quentin Grimes, who I love. And he's the one guy in that backcourt who can play some really good defense.
And that's the thing, because even if you look at players like Toppin and then I forgot the European's name. They're good, but they're more guys that complement the Brunson's kind of ideology. So, but the idea is to keep Brunson under 30, keep Quigley under 30, and you're going to be okay. But if you pushing them both, you're going to run out of the steam that the young guys can run, who play run and gun can play off of. So,
all right, as we wrap up the NBA, because I want to at least we'll do the NHL real quick. We'll just make a quick favorite and sleeper pick. But for the NBA, who's your favorite to win it all right now? As we start the playoffs, and then I'm going to want a sleeper.
Oh, I maybe Boston, and I think Boston maybe.
I'm going to go with the Bucks. I've always liked their team chemistry, and I think they're getting it going at the right time of the year here. And just because I'll take the Knicks as a sleeper. How about that? Who's your sleeper?
My sleeper is going to be out of the West, one of the West teams, and I'm going to go with. Let's stay with Sacramento.
Captain Brunson really in you. What's that? Contain Brunson really in your win. Well, maybe, but that's why I think Grimes and Barrett are going to be so important too. Mm-hmm. Bucks is fave. Winner to Kings. Warriors is sleeper. That's a good one. Who'd you say your sleeper was? Sorry,
Sacramento. Yeah, Kings.
Sacramento. Okay, that's a good one. I think Golden State could be a sleeper too. I like his pick in the West as far as a sleeper for sure. With the winner of that series. Could go ways. Before we wrap it up, just real quick, favorite in the NHL should be very easy.
For me, it's the Rangers, but because I think they're picking it up. And
the favorite to win it all?
For me, yeah.
Not the Bruins, who just set all kinds of records.
Yeah, I know the Bruins are setting records, but the problem is that I might think they're going to get the wear and tear on the Bruins is going to start showing. I hope. That's my hope.
I don't think the Rangers as a sleeper. So they're not going to be my favorite. I'm going to say the Bruins, and I'm going to call the Rangers my sleeper.
Okay. I mean, I call the Bruins as maybe the second one to win.
To me, by the way, I'll give it. Actually, Rangers are more of a heart pick. I'll give you two sleepers because don't sleep on Tampa Bay because every year in the playoffs.
Oh man, Tampa Bay, yeah, they've been doing well in the last part of the season. So
most consistent team. Thanks, Alec. Great to have you with us again today. And let me know if you picked your baseball team yet, for sure. Boston by 1 billion. There you go. Tanner's all over
the Devils are asleep. I can't pick the Devils.
Devils are a good sleeper. Jim Beringer is going to love that one.
Yeah, that's a Jim type of show thing. And I'm not.
I got to get Jim on Sunday morning show to catch us all.
I'm more of an Islanders Rangers fan, and you know what? The Islanders can be a sleeper, but I don't think they can get it together in the back end and play that defense.
I think it's very interesting. The Rangers and Devils are going to match up here in the first round. That'll be no, they're not. I'm sorry. Who are they playing? I thought they were playing the.
Wasn't the Owls and the Devils playing?
Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. I think they're matched up with the Devils in the first round. I'm looking at some games from last night. The
Bruins play the Panthers. The Hurricanes play the Islanders. That's what it is.
Yeah, and the Rangers play the Devils, no?
No, not yet.
Tough loss for the Rangers last night, by the way. Man, what else?
Yeah, the Rangers
was an
are playing
interesting
well.
fourth quarter. Third period, I'm having a lot of trouble with everything today. Oh, God. Right now, the matchups would be Islanders, Hurricanes, Devils, Rangers, Maple Leafs, Lightning. By the way, the team with the most on the line of any team, Bruins have a lot on the line, obviously, because this historic season is not going to be as historic if they don't win it all. But Toronto's got to get out of the first round here.
Hi. But remember, we had this discussion about Toronto, and remember that when they played inside the because of the COVID and all that,
The Mets. There you go.
that they weren't deep enough, right? And they still have the same problem. They're not deep enough, but whatever. Like Tampa Bay was a bigger and faster team than the Toronto was.
I don't disagree. All right, guys, that time has come. We got to wrap it up. Great show, Carlos. You did a great job as always. Only went off the rails a couple of times there. Not too bad, but
So everybody enjoy your playoffs.
guys, I want to thank you. We'll have some good weather this weekend. We'll see you on Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. Don't forget to get to TGI Sports Talk and watch the Irving Fryer interview from last night. It was very interesting, and I think you'll like it. And we'll see you Sunday morning. Have a great weekend, guys.
Have a good night, guys.